boys and girls. It's time for Not Another Pucking Podcast, Comedians on Hockey, with your old pal Chris Roach, the sometimes less than personable Anthony DiDomenico, the Count of Condescension, John Truson, and the effervescent Nick Tillelli in the booth. And now,
let's talk hockey.
What things?
How do we get
What things?
Oh
What
my
things
God.
are you
Just
trying to
click
get?
on the video every week. It's
What,
the
you click
same
on the video?
thing.
Click for more. Oh, that's simple. Okay, we're up and running.
I can't with you today.
Welcome
Seriously.
to Not Another Pucking Podcast, Comedians on Hockey.
Oh man, it's already becoming a madhouse in this den of iniquity.
You know the good thing about doing this show a little earlier on a Sunday is that
Nothing?
everybody's a little more miserable, which makes it for good podcast.
Oh man, there is fun, and we should all be happy.
Yes.
We should be happy. We should be joyous. It's
We
the
are.
holiday
It's the
season.
new year.
It's the holiday
Our teams
season.
had big wins last night.
Yes, Ranger
Yes, we
Islanders.
did. Well, Islanders had the bigger
There were
win, but-
big wins last night. Should we get right into those, or should we talk about the fact that Anthony wants to punch
Well, first let's
Roach and Nick today?
let's tell everybody listening what today's.
Well, I mean,
segment-
1-2,
Ned, we got it.
He starts at me right
Move
away.
on.
When he comes in, he
Guys,
starts.
today's
No
episode,
starting. Love.
to you people listening out there,
Yes.
whether it be on Facebook. By the way, if you're listening to this on iTunes right now, every Sunday at 2 p.m. we do this. You can watch it live on Facebook,
And you can call in.
and you can call in.
And what's the number?
Anthony?
See, Anthony's going to look now and do his
His one job is to
Connecticut
know how to
School
do
of
this.
Broadcasting.
Hey, everybody, you want to join us on Not Another Pucking Podcast? Give us a call, 844-646-5233. Give us a call. Coming at you.
Chris Roach, a professional, would type the phone number into the
I
comments.
didn't do it.
I will type. Can you do it, Anthony? You're closer to the.
Why is he that? Oh, he's
No,
closer to
you're right there. The keyboard's right in front of you.
keyboard's in-
Just
Yeah, but
type
I'm a
it.
little tight between you two guys here. My elbows are in tight.
I'll type it into the...
Oh, I feel like I'm at a jet game. When people are like right on top of you at a jet game,
Yeah.
the seats are so tight. It's like you have to tell the guy next to you, all right, I'll put my shoulder in front, you put it in the back. Then after like 4 or 5 beers, you don't care. It's like man love. But again, today's podcast, the topic, it's our 13th episode. So not only are we going to be talking about players that wore the number 13 in the NHL, but we had another episode of Nick's Flicks.
That's right.
Anthony?
Netflix.
Nick's Flicks. If you're sitting at home on a Saturday night, you're not booked on a show, and no girl wants to date you, turn on Netflix and watch a movie. It's Nick's Flicks.
Anthony is bitter because he saw a booking take place in front of him.
Yes.
And he was passed over like
man.
Fredo.
He wasn't
the
passed over.
Godfather.
Anthony's on the show.
Wait, hold on. Nick's
Can I
Flicks
have
was...
something, John?
Nick's
Anthony's
Flicks,
on the show.
Nick's Flicks this week was the movie Miracle. We'll be talking about that.
Talk about that a bit later.
Now, Anthony was talking about... Who got booked today? Nick got booked?
Nick up. We put him on the show.
Nick, young comedian.
It's funny because it is big news when that happens.
I'm very excited.
It is.
Who's emceeing at my show on New Year's Eve?
John Truson.
Oh, that's a show.
Hey!
John Truson.
John
is hosting the show.
Truson, Mick Thomas, and Chris Roach.
Nice.
Mick Thomas is going to be there?
We'll have fun.
Mitch, I'm going to be counting it.
Okay, so...
So, New Year's Eve, you count it down to 10.
All right,
Oh, yeah, you got
let's
6.
let's focus here for a moment.
Okay.
It is our 13th show.
13th episode.
13th.
And in honor of our 13th show, we were going to discuss some NHL players and some players on both our teams that wear the number 13.
Yes.
And fate dealt us a nice hand.
Well-
Because one of our other topics was going to be the Islanders' first time facing the Toronto Maple Leafs and John Tavares
Yes.
last night in Toronto. So last night, John Tavares, for Nick Tillelli and our fans who are not up to speed, John Tavares was the franchise for the Islanders for like how many years, Anthony?
Almost 10 years. He was a number
Almost
one
10
pick,
years.
I think, in 2009
He was
or
the guy,
10.
and he was
The
a
guy.
free agent, and he left and went to the Toronto Maple Leafs, much to the chagrin of the
Well,
Islanders.
he just didn't leave like he was like, oh, I'm leaving. Now, there was a lot of controversy about this because, it came to a certain point where either you're not going to sign with them, you got to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
And he assured the Islanders and the Islander fans and the organization that he wanted to remain here and be an Islander.
Right.
So they didn't trade him. And the free agency came, and now he's in Toronto. So obviously he made it as,
So what did the Islanders get from him?
Nothing.
He got nothing. He,
However,
he posted a picture on Twitter of his childhood
Stugotz.
bed with his Maple Leaf bed sheets. You know what? I got Star Wars bed sheets.
Stu
Yeah.
Gatz.
You don't see me on the Death Star right now.
If they
do you?
asked you to be in the next Star Wars,
In a heartbeat.
I think you would drop this podcast and go and do that Star Wars, wouldn't you?
It's kind of like the situation with LeBron when he went back to when
Yeah.
he left.
Yes.
left Cleveland.
It's exactly like that, and the Islander fans were very bitter. So last night was the first, and Toronto's playing great this year. Toronto is one of the dominant teams of the league. So last night the Islanders went into Toronto for the first time ever facing the team with John Tavares.
Wow.
And what was the final score, Anthony DiDomenico?
4-0. We went
4-0.
up there in his house and shoved it up his Komasakiyama.
But not only that,
Not
Shoved
only
it up
that.
his Mike Komisarek.
Not only that, a natural hat trick, which we've discussed before on the show, which is three straight
have.
goals
That
by one
deserves-
player,
that deserves
unanswered
And 1 period.
in one period. A natural hat trick by what player, Anthony DiDomenico?
Matt Barzal, number 13.
Number 13.
For
See the way it all
your
ties
New
in?
York Islanders.
See the way it all ties in? Number 13 for the Islanders.
That's right.
3 straight goals in the big game against Tavares, and they mopped up the floor with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And Tavares was just sitting on the bench with that stupid look on his face that he always has,
Wow.
and just watching that. And I said at the beginning of the season, before we can go back to episode 1, I said Barzal will be better than Tavares. And I still stand by that. I think this kid's got so much pure natural talent. And here's a fun fact about the hat trick last night. It was the first hat trick against the Leafs since Mike Bossy.
In 86?
86.
Ooh.
Yeah, how about that?
My friend Brian told me that.
How about that? So that's pretty impressive.
Who are you
So-
texting with over there?
What?
Who are you texting with over
So
there?
somebody who's watching the podcast noticed that I feel like Roach is like F headphones. So I said his head is too big.
Oh, I forgot to put my headphones on. I'm sorry.
So she's
Yeah,
like,
what-
she's
what
like, I
about
feel
your
that's
headphones?
untrue. I said it's so big.
Sorry, guys. That is true.
What
Headphones.
about?
I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that. You told me I'm mean.
All right, I'm going to be a team player and share
Here's
this.
me.
Okay, here we go. I'm sharing. All right, I'm sharing. There we go. I gotta turn it on.
Share it, Sharon.
I'm
Yeah.
sharing.
Sharing it.
All right, so anyway, so Matt Barzal. So now, Matt Barzal, clearly the greatest Islander ever to wear number 13. Are we going with that, Anthony DiDomenico, despite the fact he's only played a couple of years?
He's only this is his second year. Last year he was the Calder Trophy winner. That was the Rookie of the Year in the NHL, and this is his second year in the league, and he's showing a lot of promise. And he's, I think he's going to be better than Tavares. I really do. I think he's going to be a top superstar in this league.
So they played Tavares last night, and was this the team that he played with originally and then left?
No.
No.
He
He
was on the
played with the
Islanders.
Islanders. He was drafted
Oh.
by the Islanders. He came up with the Islanders, was the face of the franchise. He
Okay.
was their great player for a decade, and then he just left.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
packed up and left.
Right, and if they would have traded him, they would have got something for him.
Yeah.
But he waited.
So he screwed them. Okay. I get
Oh yes. Now he
But-
still hasn't played at the Coliseum yet, right?
No, he's coming back pretty soon to play in the Coliseum.
Okay, and I have a question and/or comment and/or
Yeah.
observation. You will note that prior to the game, there was I don't even know who it was, but there was a Maple Leaf player who went to the Islanders and came back, and they gave him a lovely video tribute. And the fans were very appreciative.
Matty
Nice
Martz.
nice ovation, Matty Martz. There you go.
Well-
and he was only there a couple of years, and couldn't have been classier. And I know that when John Tavares returns to the Coliseum, the Islander fans will be just as classy in welcoming back a player that gave his heart and soul to the franchise for 10 years.
You know what?
Anthony?
I will agree with you, John. They should do something for him. As listen, it was a bad breakup. I mean, none of these things usually end well anyway when a player leaves a team. I mean, it's just no way to go about it. And maybe he really did want to stay with the Islanders and then last minute change him. I don't know. Only person that knows that is John Tavares. But as an organization, I think the Islanders should pay this man tribute when he comes back to the island because he did for almost 10 years was the backbone of this team and really put them back on the map. So yes, I think he does deserve a tribute, a video package, and a thank you
Absolutely.
from the Islander fans. Listen, we're moving on. Everybody's happy. I'm happy.
Okay,
as an
what's
Islander
the
fan.
over-under on, even if they do a video package, he gets booed?
Oh, he's getting booed 100%.
Well,
Because they're
you gotta give him
classy
credit.
folks
You gotta
at
give him
the-
credit. He wasted 10
Well,
years of his
they're
career.
hurt. What?
He wasted 10 years of his career here. You gotta
Bite your
give him
tongue.
You want to know
Okay.
this is the all-time class. This is even prior to video packages and stuff like that. The all-time classiest move ever by a fan base in the hit for a player that left years ago. There was a great Ranger goalie, Eddie Jockman. He was heart and soul of the franchise. Gave 110% every game. Fought for the team. Died for the team. He was a great goalie, Hall of Fame goalie, and
the Rangers got to a point where they were clearing house of some of the older players, and shockingly to everyone, they traded Eddie Giacomin to the Detroit Red Wings. And
Yeah.
it took like the whole fan base. He was like one of the most loved players in the history of the
Yeah.
league. And they would chant Eddie, Eddie, Eddie when he made big saves and stuff like that. Well, they traded him to Detroit Red Wings. As luck would have it, the Rangers had a game that Sunday night, like 3 days later, against Detroit at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
And if you can see it online, the fans started chanting Eddie the second he got on the ice through the whole national anthem. Eddie Giacomin is
Wow.
standing he's crying in the net. He's
Yeah.
standing there like wiping
Yeah.
tears away.
Wow.
And here's where it gets really crazy.
beautiful.
The Madison Square Garden crowd, the entire night, rooted for the Detroit Red Wings.
Wow.
And Detroit
Yeah.
won 6-4.
Wow.
So the
insane.
Garden totally rooted for the visiting team just because they loved Eddie Giacomin.
Wow, that's incredible.
Let's
Beautiful.
let's
That's
sit
like
down
a
to step
beautiful
it up
story,
like
honestly.
it is. It is. It's a very
I
it's a
don't-
very emotional.
Oh wait!
moment.
By the way, if you'd like to see what Eddie Giacomin looks like, you could go to our Instagram page, and there is a picture of me and Mr. Giacomin together.
Oh really?
Wait, is this the guy that you cried to?
No, that was Mark
No.
Messier.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't cry to him. I got a little choked up. All right.
I don't think the Islanders are going to be classy, to be honest. I mean, they might have something prepared, but I just don't see this going well. I mean, to be honest, because you know what, our good friend Joe Giordano, Joey G, texted me this
Yes.
morning with some explicits about Tavares' you know what. So we are. Listen, it's as a fan base, we're hurt. I mean, this is a guy like just as he gave 10 years and everything he had, we gave him everything we had as fans.
I disagree because I say the fans were absent during his 10 years. That was 10 years.
Not the real fans.
That was 10 years where for $4 on the day of the game you could go on StubHub and get a ticket because they were bringing in like 13. They were bringing in like 14, 15 people a
That
game.
doesn't mean people aren't fans. Doesn't mean people.
No,
people
I
are
will,
fans.
and I like the people who are the real fans, but most of the fans turned their backs on the Islanders for many of those years. Correct?
Not real fans.
Well, but how many people were at the Coliseum for those games? Half full, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it because of him though?
No. He was good. They just didn't,
No,
they
that's
just
what I'm
didn't
saying.
support the team.
Yeah.
And that's why the team ended up moving to Brooklyn. Also, point two, Anthony DiDomenico, that you will have to concede. The Islanders should have addressed problems like Garth Snow, like the coach, like the goalie situation, and shown John Tavares that they were serious about this, and they did nothing until this year.
I agree
Yeah.
100%, but that also goes back to when Charles Wang did pass away. I said that his biggest flaw was maybe his
Loyalty. Yeah.
Was loyalty. Maybe one of his best characteristics is his biggest flaw as well. He was so loyal to guys and kept them around longer than possible. And that's what me and Joe were talking about today over text message. It's amazing that when you get a guy in, a real coach and how they buy into these philosophies, and coaching makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to argue with a guy who just won a Stanley Cup and a guy who had almost a dynasty in Jersey, who won multiple cups there and went to Toronto and turned that team around. That team is great Casalou.
Hold on a second. Let's give a shout out to some of our listeners chiming in. As always, Mr. Danny Guay, but also Joey Cola for the first time is chiming in.
great Joey Cola.
Legendary Long Island comedian.
Joey Cola has pointed out that his favorite goalie is Jerry Kuzman. So
I
I'm
know
not sure
that,
that
Joey, I know you're sitting on your iPhone looking up hockey names,
Yeah.
trying to impress us.
First of all, I would like to note that Mark Hirschman has said that Anthony took his kids to games.
I go to a game. I took Mark Hirschman and his kids to an Islander game.
Well,
I
I
did.
believe that allowing Anthony to take your kids anywhere constitutes parental neglect.
Well, he was there, so I mean, but this is what I did.
Joey Cola.
during
Yes.
yeah, during the every commercial break and everything, they would show commercials on the big stop. Looking at me like that, Roach.
Joey Cola said, "How come we're not looking at each other?" He's right.
They would show commercials for the team store. So
I got to actively listen.
Hirschman's kids said, "Daddy, where is that?" And I go, "Well, that's here." And like, when we go, I'm like, "Not only are you going to go, your father's going to take you there and buy you any trinket and treat that you want because he loves you. And if he doesn't love you, he won't buy you anything."
I'm doing my Sam Rosen. I'm listening and nodding every
Don't
5
do
seconds.
that, Roach. I'm leaving if you keep doing it. I'm going to walk out. I will walk out if you keep. I guess.
Stop
Anthony,
it, Roach.
oh, come on.
Stop it, Roach.
I'm trying to.
Why, you listen to Joey Cola? Why would you listen to Joey Cole?
I'm doing my Sam
God,
Rose.
Stevie Rhodes, you son of a bitch. Hey, you play hockey. I know hockey.
I have some inside information that Joey Cole will be starting a podcast.
What?
In the new year, but you know, I
Joey
just broke that.
Cola.
Joey did my podcast,
Joey
Organized Chaos.
Cola.
Shut up, Rich. Like 3 years ago, and it was one of the best podcasts we ever did. His stories were absolutely amazing.
Oh, by the way,
I had to tell him.
By the way, one of my hockey buddies, who listens to the podcast, Steve Miller. I was talking to him last week with regard to Roach's, 19,427 days of Christmas.
Yeah.
I just see him and he goes, "Is he done singing yet?"
Oh, the 8 days of Hanukkah?
Oh boy, that got long.
Well, it was 8 different players, and we stopped and we discussed.
It got
each player.
long. It was
It
like
got really long.
If you missed my singing the 8 days of Hanukkah for the NHL, you go back to last week's episode. On the 8th day of Hanukkah, the NHL gave to me.
oh, he's starting again.
No, stop.
It was like an old.
Camaraderie.
It was like an old Italian woman's ass, long and never ending. Oh my god.
Wow. Well played, Anthony DiDomenico.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump in real quick.
Sorry
I
for
have my
creative.
list here of Islanders and Rangers who have worn the number 13.
There's only one relevant now.
That's right, Matthew Barzal. Now he's
Barzy.
second-year guy,
Second year guy.
gigantic talent, maybe one of the all-time greats.
Lock him up.
If he keeps, but these are a lot of ifs. If he avoids injuries
Yes.
and keeps up the pace, he could be one of the all-time greats.
I hope he is.
He has amazing skills, and he's got some fine young players coming up around him.
That boy's good. Boy, good.
I think they should put him with Ho-Sang.
Oh, Sang's been playing well too since he's back.
Sang is learning his lesson. And he's
Ho-Sang.
another
Learning his
finely
lesson from
skilled.
what?
And again, I think that's
He
when
came
you-
up with a bad attitude,
Yeah.
and they sent him down.
He's had a bad attitude.
Ho-Sang.
But he's really skilled.
How would you say it was a bad attitude?
This is the
Like,
problem with
someone-
this podcast. Every time we actually try to have a conversation, Roach derails it with some nonsense.
I'm sorry. My Ho-Sang.
What is it with you and singing? Like, you can't sing.
I,
You did it during your roast. You always
God
sing.
gave me this voice, and I'm going to use it. God damn it!
Every
God
time
makes-
we get
God
on a
makes
roll,
mistakes.
and then you're like,
That's my Ho-Sang. It's like the He-Man Ho-Sang. There's lightning bolts and thunder.
that what your wife hears at 10 in the morning when people are up and awake and you're sleeping.
Could we get back to the conversation now? Good.
Can we? I don't.
All right.
chewing gum.
All right, now
I even forgot what I asked.
Ho-Sang.
Yes.
Well, there are players who come up and they're great coming up on every level they're on, but then you get to the NHL, and once you're in the NHL, yeah, he's got tremendous skills, but you have to be responsible, play defense and stuff like that. He was just kind of like, he was not a responsible player.
That's why he dropped in the draft too.
Would you say he played more for himself rather than the
Yes,
team? And
yes.
That's how they could tell.
Yes.
Well, that's the problem with Jewish hockey players is that.
Would you
I'm
stop
sorry.
with your hockey players?
That was a callback to last week's episode. If you want to listen to my song,
Either
8
that
days.
or just a horrible example of your anti-Semitism.
I'm not. I'm 5% Jewish. I'm 5% Jewish.
But I think now the difference with Ho-Sang is that he's coming up, and again, it's the coaching and the management.
And he got sent down.
Got
which
sent
wakes
down,
you right up.
and they didn't bring him up until he was.
What do you mean he got sent back down?
To the minor leagues.
Playing the minors,
Yep.
yeah.
Wow, so he got his call up and they're like, no.
Yep.
He was up and a couple of years ago and was doing really well, and then again he slid, so they put him back down. And this year they didn't start with the club; they started him in Bridgeport
Yeah,
and just brought him up now.
it's like kind of.
How old is he?
He's in his
None of your
20s.
business.
Is it his 20s?
He's young. He's a young dude. I mean,
Yeah, he's a kid.
he just needs to learn.
Well, still a lot of young players. Sometimes they'll send them back down. It's like a little kick in the ass. Come on,
Yep.
it's a little kick in the butt.
All right, so Barzal is your guy, but who you told me before your second favorite number 13 is who, Anthony DiDomenico? Whoever wore the
my
Islanders sweater.
second favorite Islander, number 13, is Claude Lapointe,
Mhm.
who was one of my favorite Islanders in the late '90s, early 2000s. He just a good hockey player, good guy to have on the team. Always played with 100% effort. He was my favorite, and he lived in Hicksville when he lived in the Islanders. He was seen around the island, shopping in different places and stuff like that.
All right, there you go. Three other Islanders have worn number 13. That would be Billy Guerin.
Billy Guerin.
Billy Guerin, Ron Schremp,
I don't know him.
who I'm not familiar with, and Colin McDonald for 3 years.
Did Claude Lapointe go to Finn's Deli?
No, don't start, Roach.
Finn's Deli was on News 12 today.
Roach,
Finn's
I don't
Deli
know if
is a fine deli
It's
in
a fine
Massapequa
deli.
that it is an establishment that is owned by
I don't know
Anthony's
if my
brother.
brother wants that out there, Roach.
Okay,
Well,
I'm sorry.
So we're gonna. So
Why would he
we're,
be on the news?
we're
I
doing
don't
a
want
plug.
to talk about it.
We're doing a plug.
Somebody crashed into the storefront. And nothing bad. That's all.
But that doesn't reflect
Happens.
on him in any way,
No.
shape, or form.
No, it's not my brother's fault.
It reflects on some imbecile who is driving stupidly.
That's good luck for the next year.
In what?
In Haiti.
First of all, they don't have cars in Haiti. That was a horrible thing to say. All right, New York Rangers.
They have tsunamis.
Currently, the New York Rangers also have a very fine young player wearing number 13. Who would that be, Chris Roach?
Kevin Hayes.
Kevin, who is stepping it up gigantically because
Oh,
it's his
man.
walk year.
I heard he stinks.
No, he's playing great this year.
He is playing great, and he will most likely be moved at the trade deadline.
That's sad. I've been very impressed with his play this year. You know who I've been impressed with?
Come on,
I've been
Roach.
impressed with quite some time.
Who have you been impressed
Mark
with?
Stahl has been playing very solid, I
Yeah,
feel.
he's been playing solid.
Solid hockey, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Give me
okay.
a nod when I speak.
The-
Mark
the-
Stahl has been
Yes,
playing.
Mark Stahl.
The
Not to me.
Rangers.
Mark Stahl. That's what you do when we talk about hockey.
That was
You're
stupid.
trying your best.
I
too.
try.
You really
I
do.
try to keep
If
this.
people, you guys don't see John like I do.
I try to keep the boat going in the correct direction.
And
You're
it's
going to have to sit
fascinating.
between us next episode.
Yeah, he has to because it's fascinating because he is steering the ship and you guys just pal drive through all
We're
this.
watching the replay on us fighting and bickering.
That's the thing about the
Oh,
show.
man.
We got like a 7-second delay on the video.
We watch
so
the bickering as it goes
I got
on.
to watch the stupid face he made twice.
It's
in 7
hilarious.
seconds.
Nick, don't worry about what we're doing over here.
As an engineer, Anthony, I don't know if you were
He
aware
has
of
to.
this.
That's his job.
Exactly.
As an
the
engineer, just
rudder.
make sure the show gets on iTunes. Like, you know,
Well, you know, if people didn't interrupt the iTunes process, it'd be getting to iTunes.
a little late sometimes. You're not here. Then it goes.
Who's Shlomo Goldberg? Are you being silly?
Yeah,
Neil
no, he's
Sullivan?
making fun of the fact that we had the rabbinical rocket last week, and you were buying it for a full 38
That was brilliant.
seconds.
I was so, and the attention to detail, John Truson. The rabbinical rocket.
243 goals, which was a lot at that time.
Mike Camilleri.
Montreal
is the
Maroons.
rabbinical rocket.
There you go. Also wearing number 13 for the Rangers. Remember Bob Brook? Bob Brook was a solid player.
Yeah, I remember.
He was solid. Of course, Sergei Nemchinov.
Sergey
He was a tremendous player.
on the Stanley Cup.
Also, Valery Kamensky. Jack Stoddard back in the 50s when number 13 wearing was not a thing. There you go.
Why was
Richard
those-
Scott,
why was-
Nikolai Zerdev, and Daniel Carcillo.
Why wasn't that a thing?
Because in the apparently, according to the articles that I was reading, actually doing research for the show, they 13 was considered a bad luck number.
Okay.
Until Ken Linsman wore it in Edmonton and won a Stanley Cup, and that changed everything. That was the Ken the Rat Linsman.
It is an unlucky number. It was my number in Little League every year because it was the biggest jersey size.
Well, there you go. So now, really, is that right?
Really?
Is that right?
Yeah, well, the numbers went up in like 13.
You know when I get a choice of number, you know what my number is, Anthony? Same as your choice of number.
56.
For the same reason.
56?
No. See? We've had this discussion and now you're blanking. 15. Why 15,
Oh,
Anthony?
Thurman Munson.
Thurman Munson, that's correct. That is correct.
Thurman Munson.
That's my choice of number.
That was
If I
almost
get it-
that was almost my name. My dad wanted to name me Thurman.
My dad wanted to name me Munson.
You know what
My dad
Thurman
wanted to name me
Munson
Herman.
is?
Well, yeah, he was a baseball player, right?
Baseball player who died tragically in a plane
Died
accident.
5 days before I was born, and
Wait, I thought that was Herman Munster.
no, my mother was in the hospital because she had toxemia when she was sick when she was pregnant with me, so I had to be born by C-section. And also because I didn't turn the whole way and there was a whole bunch of stuff. So my father comes in crying.
does that?
And my mother thinks that she just talked to the doctor.
Oh no!
So she's like, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" So my father's like, "He died." Where was he? He goes, "We got to name him Thurman." He's like, "Get the hell out of here, Thurman."
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, he wanted to name. So that's why I played catcher too. I was always intrigued to play catcher. Because my dad always, told me stories about Thurman Munson, and he was the backbone of the Yankees, the captain, and died tragically. And
Thurman.
he died in a plane crash because he taught himself how to fly a plane.
Not well enough.
Not well enough. He used to follow the highway. That's how we go back because he wanted to be near his family in Ohio. He was actually contemplating asking for a trade to the Indians to be close to. He's such a family.
Yeah, he was a family guy, and
So-
he wanted to go home
Horrible.
between games.
Yeah.
So he
No,
taught
that's
himself to
so
fly.
Taught himself to fly.
Oh, wow.
But here's what went tragically wrong. He was a guy. He was a typical, guy with a ton of money. He bought a really powerful jet that he probably wasn't able to handle.
No.
He was, he should have got like a little,
Yeah, rinky dink.
a little rinky-dink plane, but
Cessna.
the jet was like really powerful, and apparently
So
it
wait,
might have been a little bit over his head.
He was the first Yankee to die in a plane crash. Wasn't there another one?
Well,
that also-
Corey Lytle died in a plane crash
Oh,
in New York City.
Yeah, he crashed
He
into a
wasn't- he was
building.
driving it, wasn't he?
Here's the
Yeah.
craziest
Yeah.
trivia in the history of the world. You ready?
Yeah.
Corey Lytle.
All right. The guy crashed the plane into a building
Yep.
in New York City. The woman
Oh,
who
my
owned that apartment, also the woman who got hit by the lamppost that the Cat in the Hat thing knocked down during the Thanksgiving parade.
Oh,
so,
wow.
so God really wanted this woman dead.
Oh, yeah.
and he missed a couple of times. It's just going.
Get out of New York.
And that's,
really,
and that's
really.
why the floats are flown lower now. They,
Yes.
they used to
Oh,
fly them
really?
up like they used to fly
Oh,
them up like
that's
10
Yeah.
all the way up in the air.
Yeah. If you're getting hit by lampposts and people driving planes into your apartment, you better move on with
Well,
life.
Become a monk or
Lou
something.
Pinella flown with Munson and never again. He told him, he goes, "You got to get better at this. You got to hurt yourself."
Yeah.
Now, where did the,
What year was that then?
That was 79.
Yep.
August 2nd, 1979.
Did they say pilot error or something like that? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was
That's
just.
so, oh, God.
And then they didn't have the game that day. The next day they had the game, or
Mm-hmm.
right after his funeral, and Mercer hit like a home run, and they towards the
Also very emotional. They had
Emotional.
the opening with nobody standing behind home.
nobody standing behind home plate.
Yep.
That's right. They opened it up with nobody behind home plate,
Mm-hmm.
and his locker was left unused until they tore the.
Do they
stadium.
clean the stuff?
Really?
Yeah.
That's always my question. I see
It was
sealing up
empty.
the locker.
It was just empty.
They just empty
It
it?
was an empty locker. It was
Because
Sterling's locker.
Gehrig and Ruth's lockers also were
Yeah.
traditionally untouched.
That's gonna be haunting as a Yankee player coming up and just having that locker.
Not
stand
really.
through.
I
gotta
mean,
be a
that's
little-
part of the
tradition.
allure as,
Yeah,
as
it's
being.
tradition.
And you have teams like this, like and the Rangers have traditions like that too. And that's like these old these teams that were like had been around for a while. That's why there's so much tradition, and it's like it's an honor to play for these teams. And that's another reason, I guess, Tavares wanted to play for the Maple Leafs as well. It's an original six team. He grew up watching that team, and I don't blame him in that sense, because if I was a baseball player, I'd want to play for the Yankees, and if I was a hockey player, I'd want to play for the Islanders. So I get it.
Okay.
Now, when I was watching Knicks Flicks last night, there was a player playing against Team USA, that a name I haven't heard in a while, and that name was Pelle Lindbergh.
Pelle Lindbergh, another tragic death.
Another tragic death.
Another guy who had too much power for him to handle. He was a young guy.
Yep.
The Philadelphia Flyers have traditionally, like since the Stanley Cup years, have had bad goalies. Their goalies have never been great.
Right.
Pelle Lindbergh was a phenomenal goalie.
Yep.
And he was in Philly. He was a huge star. He was on top of the world. He was a kid. So he did what many of these kids have done. He bought himself a Porsche that he couldn't quite handle.
Right.
And he killed himself in the
Really?
Porsche. Yep.
He crashed into like somebody's steps. Now, if it was a deli he crashed into, he might
We're
be
just
all-
up with the
Oh, my
All
God.
right.
That's the stare.
Can you look? Can you bring that stare to the camera? Sure.
All right, now-
the Italian death stare.
Now let me just say that I looked into.
That's my brother, Rose. So I'm talking about my brother.
All right.
Don't
No, we're
mess
not
my
saying
family.
we're not saying anything disparaging.
we'll give him a
It's
shout out.
It's a great.
Talk
it's a
about
great
my
place.
family, Roach.
He's one of us unofficial sponsors. for
I have
Finn's Deli.
eaten at Finn's Deli, and the food was excellent. And not only that, there was a sandwich. Is the sandwich named after Anthony?
Yes,
There's
it
a
is.
drive-through over there too.
It's the Uncle Cheese. Is that what
Uncle
it is?
Cheese.
What is it?
The Uncle Cheese.
And what's on the Uncle Cheese?
It's hand-carved turkey, avocado,
Shame,
cheddar,
Mm-hmm.
ranch dressing.
misery.
It's delicious.
Okay.
Don't
Excellent.
talk
Now-
about my brother, Roach.
Now I looked.
Okay.
I went down the rabbit hole when we were talking about 13 and numbers and stuff like that. So then I got into retired numbers.
Ooh.
You know how many times? Now this may be. I don't know if this is accurate. Have they yet retired Pavel Datsuk's number in Detroit? They will. You know they will. But I don't know if they've done it yet. So at this point, according to the online reference, the only number 13 ever retired by a team was what? Do you know?
Yes, I know this one. Oh.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Toronto Maple Leafs retired.
Toronto Maple Leafs sweater.
Toronto Maple Leafs retired. It was an older player?
No.
No, who was it? Wait.
Matt Sundin.
Thank you.
Only retired one time. Number 13. Do you know what team has the most retired numbers?
Montreal.
Nope. I thought Montreal too, but it's actually Toronto.
Toronto. Wow.
By one. I think it's 19 to 18. And all the original six obviously have a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you really did go down a rabbit hole.
I went down the rabbit hole. I have like every number ever retired over here. It's great. You know what number was retired the most? But that doesn't count.
One.
It doesn't count 99, which is theoretically retired by every team.
9 is
9, 8.
9 is correct.
Yeah.
9 is correct.
That's an old school hockey number 9. Like a
Yep.
lot of guys wore 9.
Bobby Hull, Bobby Orr.
Yeah.
Not Bobby Orr. I'm
How many
sorry.
players-
Gordie Howe. Bobby
Gordie
Orr was
Howe.
4.
How many players have worn the number 00?
A couple, but that
Clark
number is
Griswold.
no longer. You can no longer wear that. The last player to wear it, I think, was JD.
Why is that?
Clark Griswold wore it.
You know what? You know what I heard?
It's not really a number.
It's for a dopey reason. I heard some guy say that, and it's probably a rule that was put in a few years ago when the whole computerization of the statistics. Apparently, using 0 and double zero as a number was screwing up some sort of the
Oh, really?
spreadsheet scenarios or something.
Interesting.
And it was
Okay.
like, which I'm sure
Yeah, that was
was
more
corrected almost immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
But you cannot wear the numbers you can wear have to be between 1 and 98 now.
Okay.
Yep.
There was a goalie on the Hartford Whalers that wore the number 0, single 0.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what his name was.
Chris Roach.
No.
Biggest
No.
0 I know.
Why?
Because he's got to mock my brother. That's why.
I didn't mock him. I'm just, I'm concerned about him. I said, let's give him a little plug here. You know, make
There you
sure
go.
everybody show your support for Finn's Deli and go in there tomorrow and buy a sandwich.
There you go.
Leave it alone, Roach.
There you go. All right, you want to? I have the list here, and this again is an older list, so it does not include it. Well, Matt Barzal actually is kind of new to me. On
This
a
is
list
the
like
13 still?
This is the 10 best players according to this guy to wear number 13.
Yeah, who was the one that wrote the article?
Yeah, I don't know, some guy.
All right.
Once in a while, we give him credit.
Yeah. Number 1 was, we've already said it, Pavel Datsyuk, who was an incredible player for the Detroit Red Wings. And if his number hasn't been retired yet, it certainly will be. Number 2, Matt Sundin, already mentioned.
Okay.
Number 3, Teemu Solani.
What would you say like made these guys great players then?
Just
They
overall
scored a lot of
careers,
goals
a lot
in
of
hockey?
Yeah, a lot of goals.
Well, there's other ways
They
to describe
played-
a great
they played
player.
good
Anthony. I don't know.
hockey.
Maybe
That's
I
what
learned more
made-
hockey than you.
Yeah.
Was that way you skate? It's also the way you play on a team. And
That's
Yeah,
true.
just
There,
the
there are a
way
lot
they
of there are
Exactly.
there are defensemen who didn't score a lot of
Just
goals.
the way
are
they
in the Hall of
skated.
Fame.
He's all worked up because someone
He
poked
was
the
a
bear.
good-
You fmake fun
he
of
was a
something
good-
with Anthony's. Everyone else
He
gets
was a
upset.
good skater.
Poor guy.
Oh man, Slavak Kozlov. There you go.
He had a funny name, so they retired his number. They liked his name.
Slavak
Kozlov.
Kozlov.
He was one of the Russian
What?
guys.
Kinda like
He was one of the Russian.
Yep.
The wrong thing, Di Domenico.
Bill Guerin.
Bill Guerin, the Devils.
Bill Guerin. Obviously, we've already mentioned wore it with the Islanders. Ken Linsman, the Rat. Ken the Rat Linsman was the Sean Avery of his day.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the most hated guys in the league. He was a prick. He was there to
Did he
annoy
design
people.
men's fashion as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, he didn't. He didn't have the flair or the je ne sais quoi of Sean Avery.
I feel like Sean Avery though was kind of like a guy stuck out of times because like everyone in the '70s kind of behaved that way. You know what I mean? And it was like just like absurd to see that guy behave away now, right?
There you go.
I want to say Sean Avery stood me up at the comedy club last week. That's all I'm saying. You know,
Post
Sean-
another picture. Hey, look at me, my buddy Sean Avery. Look at him. Yeah, we're gonna do the comedy.
What was the term that Sean Avery had for guys who like followed around hockey players?
Jock sniffer.
Jock sniffers.
That's you.
So I
Maybe you made the jock sniffer list.
you know what I called him when he didn't show up? I called him a joke sniffer.
Oh.
You texted him that?
But he didn't show up.
Hashtag. No, he didn't show up. So I'm like, I'll be in the city next week too. Hashtag joke sniffer.
Oh.
Yeah,
See
you
that?
really got him.
He wants to do yeah. If he wants to be serious about stand-up comedy, I'm going to need more of a commitment from him.
Speaking of which, did you skate this week?
Oh, come on, John. You know.
No, but I did physical labor at my house, so you know that.
Yeah,
made
but
me-
the plan was to get up early, go skate, then come back and do the physical.
it's happening. It's happening in January.
It's not happening.
Oh, it's
You're
happening.
Like everybody was like, "Oh, I'm joining the gym. I'm joining this."
And
I'm
you're
gonna
gonna
wait.
go to this hockey game, by the way, and play with
Horribly.
little. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With
He's not
little-
going to play hockey.
You know, you think he's gonna play?
One shift for a pitcher. I'm gonna scout them and punch Clark Gillies and run.
I hope he knocks the crap out of you.
Oh Oh man, we should do a live. We should do a
Dan-
Facebook live.
Danny Guire wants to know who's the mystery voice.
That is our engineer.
It's not a
No,
mystery.
I like a mystery.
That's a great Nick Tolelli.
Let him
It's
keep
Nick
guessing.
Tolelli. He's a young
Well, I
man
wouldn't
who
put
knows.
great in front of that, but it's
we
Nick
thought
Tolelli.
we thought he'd be a good addition because he's a comedian. He knows very little about hockey, so we could
right.
teach him
And
along
about
the way.
comedy. Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, now
Oh,
also
Anthony.
before we skip over such important things, we did dwell on the very fine Islander win last night. The Rangers also had an excellent win last evening.
Who
Did
they
they not,
play?
Chris Roach?
They had a very
They
good
played
one.
the very tough Nashville Predators.
They are a tough team.
And Piquet Subban came back, and you know who came back last night? Made a huge difference. Actually, a couple of guys. Jasper Fast, who is
Yeah.
one of the heart and soul guys, but also who I actually mentioned last time they really miss is Cody McLeod.
Yes,
And he was back, and he was doing his thing.
doing his thing.
He was a tough guy. He was banging guys and causing trouble, and he makes a difference, that guy. Even if he's not on the score sheet, he makes a difference in the game.
What do you think, Chris Kreider, 50 goals this year? Chris Kreider, 50 goals.
I would love to see him continue. He's got 20 already, which is very impressive.
He's not going to score 50.
He's I mean, he's on a pace. You don't know what injuries are taking place.
I'm going to
You
say
don't know.
39 he ends with.
You going with 39?
Yeah.
That's a
That's a very respectable number.
It certainly is.
Still a career high.
Yeah, his career high is going to be
He might
this
be
year,
at it.
undoubtedly. But it was a great game.
not
Did you see the first tip that he made? It was incredible.
I did not.
It was a great Zibanejad set
Oh,
up.
I did see the replay, yes.
Zibanejad
She's just 35.
did the slap pass scenario to Kreider, who was about 4 or 5 feet wide of the net, and tipped it into the top corner. It was an insane tip. Beautifully done.
That really is a skill.
And Jesper Fast scored 2 goals. So the
Jesper Fast.
So we had
the
good
Rangers
wins.
won 4-3.
Wonder how Oscar Lindbergh is doing.
Is it easy
Oh, that
to,
was tough to get rid of that guy.
Is it easy to determine which is an accident goal and what is like an actual tip?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell by a tip. The guy's facing the shooter, and you see him actually tipping it.
Okay.
You see him actually making the moves to
Okay.
tip it. Then there's times where guys are just pushing each other in front of the net, and something goes off your
Yeah,
butt
that's
or
what I'm
something,
saying, yeah.
which also counts as a goal, but it's clearly an accident. It
Yeah.
goes off your skate.
Looks
or
like
something
Danny
that.
Guire agrees with me as well. He goes 35 at best. He
Pipe
went
down, guy.
down, sadly.
No, he may be right. He may
Pipe
be
down,
right.
guy.
It's very hard to keep up
Also,
that pace.
teams start playing you differently once they focus on you more than other players, and it's hard to keep up that pace too.
Yep.
Again, 35 goals too. It's very respectable. 50 goals nowadays, it doesn't happen.
Pipe down, guy.
It hasn't happened that much in the history of the league.
No.
Worry about your paradiddles.
What's a paradiddle?
He's taking drum lessons.
It's a drum
Oh.
thing. Paradiddles.
Is he going to play in your band Riverdance?
See, mate, this is not Riverdance.
Riverdance.
It's Ridge Haven.
Oh, I thought it was Riverdance.
It sounds like a bad show on the WB.
Ridge Haven.
Yeah.
The WB, that's how old you are. It's CW, eh?
Oh man.
Next on Ridgehaven, Mindy finds Kyle alone with Janice.
That's ridgehavenband.com.
Really, you guys have?
We
website?
were after.
I didn't know you had a website.
They played 3 of our they played 3 of our songs last night on 94.3 The Shark. Thank you, Rob Rush. I saw Rob Rush chiming in there.
Poor Rob Rush.
Thanks, Rob.
They played. What songs did
Never
they
tell
play?
a guy you owe him a favor.
They played they played the theme song to Not Another Pucking Podcast, which is called "Stalk the Prey."
Right.
They played. We have another song called "Without Remembrance" and "Devil Went Out."
Well, is it gauche of me to point out that in Stalk the Prey, when Chris Roach sent it to me, prey was played was spelled as in religious praying, as opposed to so it was actually stalking someone who's
Are you stalking
in church.
Are you stalking somebody who's praying? Is that what
All right, it was a typo. All right, it was a typo.
Are you following somebody who's at a church praying and stalking them?
It was a typo.
It reminisces.
I don't write the lyrics. I just write the
Stalking the
music.
prey. What are you praying for? Is it for money or for health? What are you praying for?
You know what?
I'm
I
stalking you.
kind of like that song. I think you should write
I'm
songs.
stalking
Anthony.
you.
Anthony clearly has missed his calling. You should be a
I write
songwriter.
the songs that make the
Chris
whole
Roach standing outside the
world
church,
sing.
staring at you as you pray. What are you praying for? This is a bad band. We write shitty songs.
Oh man! Oh goodness! Yikes! Oh boy! Why? Why does this always? Why do we always have to degenerate to this point?
You guys are jerks. Come on,
Because he loves-
we got like 20 minutes left. We haven't even talked about Netflix.
Well, we're gonna get to Netflix
it's
now.
Netflix. When you're home
Now-
last Friday and Saturday night, not booked, and no girl wants to go on a date. You just fire up Netflix and watch a movie. Netflix.
Ta-da.
You're right. Kids got talent.
Okay. Well, We have already established in our prior Nick's flicks, Nick has watched Red Army.
I did.
So you have learned what a dominant machine the Soviet hockey team was.
I wish I didn't watch Red Army before Miracle because
Right.
You
did
felt
not,
bad for them?
I did. They didn't
Me
deserve
too.
it. We didn't
Me
deserve
too.
it. I got to be honest.
Well, they kind
Listen,
of did.
What do you mean they didn't deserve it?
I just feel like I saw how
What
hard.
country do you live in?
I know. That's why I wish I could
Believe
see
it or
Red
not,
Army. So
I did the same
appreciate-
thing you did.
Yeah?
I watched.
course, you're
I
another
watched the
traitor.
Russian documentary first,
You
and now
traitors.
you're looking at these players that you feel like you've already met.
No.
Dude, they're getting drunk, hanging out. These guys don't even get to see their father's funeral, and they
Right.
lost the game. And they're doing
Right.
it for 10 years together. That's like a real life family. They said they were a family after what, 6 months they played
That's right.
together.
That's right.
I was like, this is ridiculous. I really felt bad.
No, you didn't.
I really did.
So what we've established already is Nick is a Soviet
I'm a commie.
sympathizer.
Yeah.
Ooh. Did you see the coach in Miracle for the?
Yeah.
What was the coach's name for?
Tikhonov?
Tikhonov, correct. Viktor
They,
Tikhonov.
They had his eyebrows down to a science.
Yeah, I know.
It was
They
brilliant.
found a guy that looked exactly like him.
Yeah.
We,
The girl
they
I
look
was
like him. They
with
try to
was
put on the
an
eyebrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was an odd guy. So what was our takeaway aside from that of watching?
Aside from that, there's two things. One, the wife was really annoying in the beginning. It really
Well,
pissed
that's
me
why.
off.
Well,
That's
they
how
had
wives
to
are.
put that in just to get a little relationship stuff and show, okay, it's a strain on his personal life.
I know that, which was a burden because it's not like he was doing the hockey team down the block. This was the Olympics. It's just like you don't make time for the kids. That really bothered me. But also, I thought Kurt Russell was pretty good. Although I could tell when he was acting too much, especially when he was getting interviewed by the journalist.
He's a good
One
actor.
thing that was amazing
He
was
bangs Goldie Hawn.
he bangs Goldie Hawn, so he
So he gets a
Gets a
pass.
his pass. Getting cut when you're playing for that team.
Yeah,
And that was a
that's an
brutal-
intense scene.
That was an intense scene.
It's an intense scene,
and he had to do it. That was something done to him too.
Yeah,
Right,
he was
right,
that
heard
exact guy, so he knows exactly what that guy was.
He was
feeling.
the last man cut on the 1960 team. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and his dad was not a nice guy.
No.
His dad. Did they tell this in that one, or was it in another documentary?
No, what happened?
He was.
I remember this.
He got cut like he already made the team. He was in the picture, the whole thing. He was going to the 1960 Olympics, Herb Brooks, and when they're about to leave, he gets cut and replaced with another guy, and so he has to go home. And he's watching on TV with his dad, and that was the last time before 1980 that the U.S. team won a gold medal. So the U.S. team wins the gold medal. He's sitting with his dad on the couch, and Dad goes, "Well, I guess the coach cut the right guy."
Oh, ouch!
How does that sting you?
You know what,
Ouch.
though? I think they did kind of allude to that when they're in the locker room. And
Yeah.
they brought in the other guy. And was it Jim Craig the goalie?
Jim Craig.
Jim Craig was the goalie?
Yep.
And he mentioned that. And what was I going to say about that? That was also a good point, too, because he even says, like, listen, you imagine you're home alone at the whole time watching the other team win. He'll do anything to cut us. And that's when it was like it's set in from being
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
You know, but of course, they cut some guy that you barely paid attention to the whole movie.
Yeah, well, that guy was a nice guy the whole thing, but they didn't
Yeah.
make him one of the main guys.
Yeah.
Ralph Cox.
Why did you
Right.
play college hockey?
Told you.
Hey,
Get the
so-
girls.
Why did you want to play college hockey?
And they showed you at the end where everybody is today. And one thing you notice about a lot of NHLers, they all become like financial.
Yeah.
They all do something like
Or
in that-
motivational speakers.
Yeah, motivational speakers, financial investment bankers. They all have like these three careers they tend to go to. It's interesting.
There you go. Also, I don't know whether it was made as clear in the movie. I mean, they allude to it a little bit, but Jim Craig was the whole miracle.
Yeah.
Because if you look, I think they were outshot 43-16 or something like that.
Right.
They were gigantically outshot in that game by the Russians were all over them, and Jim Craig was just unbeatable.
the game of his life.
And Tikhonov was quoted as saying, after pulling, is it Tretiak, the goalie?
Yes,
Yeah.
greatest player on earth.
Greatest player. He said it was the biggest mistake of his career. But then again, when he pulled him, the team really did turn it up. They pulled the goalie in, and they dominated the second period. But Jim Craig was just phenomenal.
Well, for that reason, I mean, if you pull they say the best player.
They actually dominated the whole game.
That's a message. If that's not sending a message when you pull an all-star goalie,
Yeah, if Jim Craig doesn't play one of the best games ever played by a goalie on planet Earth, they lose that game.
Can I say They also
Bring
did a
Mike on
good
first.
job. They also did a good job depicting like how the game went because they kind of slid in every goal and every like shot and like the sound effects and everything like that. It was like a really well done.
Yeah, the on ice action was good,
Yeah.
and the goals were almost exact, like sort of choreographies of the actual goals.
I was
That's what
gonna
those
ask
goals
that.
looked like. It was like, yeah, because you know all those goals if you,
They
you
got-
are
yeah.
that old, and they would hit them on the money pretty much every one of those goals, including the Mike Eruzione like
Yes.
little dance that he did into the corner when he scored the goal to go ahead.
Right.
Now, how accurate was this movie to life, by the way?
It was very accurate,
Yeah.
which was what's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, there were minor things, but the thing is, it's like a Disney film, and if you
Yeah.
just put that out as a Disney film, people go, "Hey, that couldn't happen."
Yeah.
But it was really based on factual stuff. Some things they left out were interesting.
Well, there's a documentary that HBO did about this.
Do you
this
believe
team.
in miracles?
Yeah, Do You Believe in Miracles? I don't know if you ever get a chance to see it, watch that, and everything that's in that documentary is in that movie.
Yeah, it's
really?
it's very. But there's things like, okay, they beat the Russians,
Mm-hmm.
biggest upset in the history of hockey, like not even debatable. They have to still play the game against the Finnish
Finland,
team.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if they lose to Finland, not only do they lose the gold medal, they lose any medal.
Oh,
That's right.
Yes, they could have gone from
Right.
first place to fourth place right there.
Wow.
So they're
Right.
playing for any medal there, and you know you had the incredibly inspirational Herb Brooks speech
Yeah.
prior to the game with all the music and all the building and stuff like that. You want to hear Herb Brooks' speech for the Finnish game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Herb Brooks comes in. He knows they just beat the Russians. They got the whole speech, and this is according to Mike Eruzione, who was the captain of the team. Herb Brooks walks into the locker room, and he goes, "If you lose this game, you'll take it to your fucking graves." And he turns around, takes 3 steps to the door, turns around again, and just goes, "You fucking graves," and walks out. That's it. That's the whole inspirational speech
That's
from
hilarious.
the Finnish game.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I remember this when it was happening.
Fucking
Again,
graves.
as far as the media,
right.
As far as television media, there was 12 channels. So everyone, it's not like, you watch the Olympics today, maybe a portion of the people are actually watching it. Everybody in the country watched, whether you were a hockey fan or not. Going to school the next day, the whole bus chanting USA, USA. It was just incredible. It was incredible. And again, we knew nothing about the Soviets other than they were the devil.
Well, also
Short
that
bus
They were the devil.
what was crazy
What?
was that Madison Square Garden game, like 3 days before the Olympics, where
They got lit up.
They got lit up badly. That
Yeah.
was
10-3 they lost.
Yeah.
Now, this is another question I had because I was watching it on. I guess I don't know if I missed something, but why did they play the Russians again and then play them another time? What was the?
They played them in an exhibition game
Oh,
at
okay.
Madison Square Garden.
Before
It
the
was nothing
Olympics.
but an exhibition game a few days before the Olympics, and there's speculation there that Herb Brooks kind of wanted him to get buried, just to like
Wow.
sort of say, look,
School.
Motivate them
it's
a
it's
little
time
bit.
it's time to step this up because this
School.
is how good these guys are.
That's
Don't we have a
fascinating.
Herb Brooks quote? Is that a Herb Brooks quote?
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff in here.
Is that Herb right there?
Well, that's the whole speech.
Go. Hold on.
Great moments are born from great opportunity.
See,
Yes, I'm trying too hard though.
And that's what you have here.
That doesn't sound like Herb Brooks.
sounds like Kurt Russell doing Herb Brooks.
Oh.
That's what you've earned here tonight.
Yeah. See?
Yeah. See, every time he
See?
spoke, earned her tonight.
Well, that's how he talked, though.
Well, that's how Herb Brooks talks.
And
Yeah,
also,
but still,
John Truson, I remember every game, which was unusual, the team is celebrating, and he's gone.
Yeah.
He
That's what was interesting that they showed in the Disney film was where he sort of goes under the stands and collapses.
Yes.
Because he was leaving as soon as the games were over. He would
Gone.
walk away.
Really?
And he said he
wouldn't celebrate.
He said, it's their time.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
that's-
get to that's not about me. That's about them.
Them, yeah.
But that was an interesting thing where he just goes under the stands and kind of collapses. And that was kind of cool.
And
Yeah.
weeps. Yes, it got me. It got me because I knew it was Herb Brooks, the tough guy, and all of a sudden you saw this soft side. I was like, I don't know if this really happened, but it got me.
It got me when he
good.
pointed to his wife. He should have been like, "I told you." You.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it bothered the hell out of
We
me.
should give it a finger, then walked
Yeah,
into the tunnel.
exactly. Yeah.
No, that was pretty cool.
That's not nice.
It was a beautiful moment. It was
I'm
beautiful.
unpleasant.
And on the DVD, one of the DVD extras is they sit around the table talking to Herb Brooks, and
Really?
Kurt Russell's there, and because he interviewed Herb Brooks extensively about the thing, and Herb Brooks actually died before the film was
Yeah, I
released.
saw it.
He
It's
died.
like
He died in a
2003.
car crash also.
Yeah.
But he had some interesting stories about that. He said that he would never have a curfew. He goes, I never had a curfew on any of my teams because your best player is always the one who breaks it. Then you got to bench him.
Right.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like it always comes back to bite in the ass.
Yeah, and he wanted it to be the enemy too. He made him the enemy.
Yeah, that was a
The
conscious
guys.
decision
Yep.
because he knew that he had guys who hated each other.
Yeah, from Boston and
Yeah, it's
Minnesota.
like if you got if Herb Brooks was here, he would get Anthony and Chris Roach
yeah.
and Nick Khalili to bond
Yeah.
in their hatred of Herb Brooks.
Yes, it was,
that
it
that
was
has happened
genius.
with me in other comics over other things.
It was genius. It was.
Well, I liked also at the end of the game that they first played that they won, but even after the game, he made them all stay there, and he was like, "You didn't work the game, you're working now."
Oh,
Actually, they
Is that
tied.
true?
They tied in Norway.
Yep.
Yes, that is absolutely
is.
a
Aren't
true
those called
story.
true?
100%, and they thought he was going to kill them.
In the documentary, they actually have some footage of that.
Yeah.
Of the,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I put it. Truson, you could help me out here. Isn't that drill called like suicides or something?
It's old that we used to call them. We just used to call them lines.
Oh, Roach, if you were
They
skating,
called-
if you
they
were skating,
called
you
them-
know what it was.
They called them Herbies. They called them Herbies.
If you actually went in practice, you know what it was.
I call them pantings.
But that's a hard drill to do. What you're doing is you're taking off to the blue line, stopping hard, coming back, and then red line back, far blue line back, full light.
After a
And-
game.
Yeah,
They all
but
just played a game.
You do that once, you're winded.
Yeah.
He had them do it until they were ready to actually die.
And I'm sure they practiced that morning too, light practice.
Yeah, but he really just drove him into the ground on that thing.
Oof.
And
Because nothing's going to be as worse as that, I would assume, right?
you know, it's funny. It was Jim Craig got off the ice early because he was replaced in that game. Because they were giving
Yeah.
Janicek a little time.
Yeah.
So Craig, they were making fun of him on the documentary thing where he didn't have to participate in that. He beat it. He was like under the stands going, "I'm glad I'm not out there right now."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I want to. We have a comment from one of our listeners, John Marone. He goes, "Roach, you got custom fitted skates. Are they collecting dust?"
Now, as my former life coach, I don't know if you should. As my former life coach, I don't know if you should speak,
Danny
speak to me
Guire.
that way, John. It's very smarmy of you, Mr. Barone.
I
What
think
would
that's
the
great.
'94 Rangers think of that?
Oh,
Oh,
see, he's doing-
see?
Ooh.
See that?
What would Messier say?
He's
Mr.
going into
what-
my heart and
what-
trying to
what-
pull
What
it.
would the
That's
Messiah
right.
say to you?
That's right. I like this.
What would the Messiah say to you if you said number 11? I got these custom skates. And they just
Oh,
said,
I
man.
see your methods, Mr. Marone. I see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Mr. Marone, guess what? Next week they'll still be collecting dust. They'll be
They
sitting
will
here
not,
more,
John.
More
I'll be on-
excuses. Hey, this work around the house. I had to get up at 12 o'clock and then I had to have an exam.
What was it like being a fan
I
in that
installed the
time,
vinyl floor.
watching this game in real life? I'm talking to all
It was
three of you.
it was insane
Yeah.
because
I was one, so I didn't.
Oh, okay, I assumed.
because
same age.
it was a game.
What?
You know, the fact that they call it a miracle is correct. There was zero chance they could win that game.
Yeah.
It was like
Hold on.
It was
I
like
didn't
us
hear-
going. We're going to have a hockey game against a professional team and win.
I didn't hear what Nick. I didn't hear what Nick said under his breath. I turned and go, "What?"
I said I assumed you guys were all the same age, but
Oh.
I look younger than you. Okay?
how worked up he gets. I like poking.
It's very upset.
He does. He can't handle it sometimes.
I can handle it, but don't make ridiculous statements.
Oh yeah, no, that game was unbelievable. And the thing is, they didn't show it live, which I
Yeah.
think they made.
Oh, really?
They did
No,
not
it wasn't-
show- that-
it was not live.
It was a weird 5 o'clock start, and nobody.
I wonder if there was a reason, but
Well, nobody thought it would matter. They thought the American team will be like 8th in the bracket, and they'll get destroyed by the Soviets. So they weren't
Soviets-
even thinking in terms. They were going to show figure skating. Something that has some ratings.
Yeah.
So they scheduled the game for 5 p.m. And then NBC, when the game became like a big deal, decided we're not going to show it live. We're going to show it in prime time at 8 p.m. because they still thought they would lose. And they showed it on tape delay at 8 p.m. and people had already heard what happened.
But they had to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they had to see it. But
You
that
believe
was
what?
one of the
but
major.
imagine watching that game while it was going on, though. That's
Yeah.
bananas.
That opened the door for a lot of NHL Americans.
Yeah, that's really where Americans in the NHL
Yeah.
kind of comes from. There were very few Americans in the NHL prior to that. But a lot of those guys went to the NHL and were successful. And
Kenny Morrow.
Kenny Morrow, we've already
Went to
discussed.
go
Kenny
in-
Morrow wins the gold medal there, goes to the Islanders,
Win
wins
the
four
Stanley
straight
Cup.
four straight Stanley Cups. So
Wait.
that That guy 5 years in a row.
Good couple of years.
Wow, really?
Neil
Yeah.
Broughton wins the gold medal, wins a Stanley Cup, and I think he also won a college championship.
Who did he play for that he won for?
Islanders.
All Islanders?
He went right to the Islanders from
Wow.
the
Defenseman on the Islanders.
Wait,
Kenny
so
Morrow.
that was 1980, so it was 81, 82, 83, 84?
No, he went right from the Olympics
Yeah,
to playing on
finished
that.
the season with the
Finished
Islanders.
the season with the
year.
Islanders.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Went for the Olympics,
Yeah.
finished the season with the Islanders, then won that year. So we won a gold medal and a Stanley Cup in the same year.
What a career.
And Jim Craig only played 30 games.
Well,
That's it.
Jim Craig had a drinking problem.
Oh, I did not know.
Like most Boston Irish people
Yes,
do.
Jim
Yeah.
Craig played a little bit for the
Anthony.
Bruins. He played, but Jim Craig was not a successful. He was not a successful.
You know,
NHL
those
player.
Irish Boston, they like to drink a lot.
Anthony.
You know, we like to have a couple of pops after the game. After play hockey.
Anthony. Anthony.
We watch the
Anthony.
Sox, and then we have a couple of beers, couple of lagers.
You're a good boy, Anthony.
Shame.
We all love you.
But shame. Shame.
But yeah, so Jim Craig did not. Mike Eruzione, who scored the winning goal, the captain of the team, never played a game in the NHL.
No, he was. I remember.
He
him-
decided he was not going to. He's like,
almost got-
I've never, that was it. That's
He almost
the
got
top.
cut
I
from
kinda
that
respect
team.
that a little bit,
He almost
though.
got cut from that team.
Yes, he did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He worked for MSG. I remember him hosting,
Yep.
doing commentary between periods.
Yep. He did some commentary and stuff like that. He was. He's been around.
I remember him actually skating when he said he was going to skate.
Well, that is the goal. You
Hey,
know,
that was meant
you know.
for me. Herb Brooks, maybe it was a publicity stunt or not, played coach, was it one season for the Rangers?
And that was a publicity stunt.
What
He
was-
changed the Rangers. He made them better.
Okay.
Substantially
Publicity
better.
stunt. He won the gold medal. We even had
Yes,
he won
he-
national championships and a gold
I'm just
medal.
saying he
the
coached one
best
year.
Russian team,
Did he
too.
coach any other teams?
Herb Brooks came in,
Yeah.
and not only that,
Oh,
he,
forgive me, Herb.
he changed the way the NHL plays hockey, which we've already talked
Well,
about.
he said at the beginning of the movie, too.
Yeah, because in the old days, up and down, straight up and down, stay on your wing, all that kind of stuff. That whole swirling style that everybody plays now goes back to the Russians,
They
and it
call
goes
it
back to
trough.
Herb Brooks bringing it into. And he had these Smurfs. Remember the Smurfs?
Yes.
What
When
would-
the Islanders had the Rangers had a very small team. They had like Ruotsalainen and Pavlich and a lot of those guys, and they're playing that style. And they beat the Flyers, and they had some good teams with some guys who were not
Publicity
great.
stunt. What's the matter with you?
I'm just saying I would like to see him in more than one season.
I gotta ask, what was the game against Finland like? Was it as nail biting as the one
Yes,
against
the game against Finland, they went down. They were down, I believe, 2-1 going into the third period, and they just said in the locker room, just the players themselves were like, "We're not going to let this happen."
Yeah.
And they went out in the third period and scored 3 straight goals.
Wow.
And won the game 4-2.
And there's that great scene after when they're getting the gold medal. Usually, just the captain would get the medal.
Yeah.
Eruzione made the whole team get up on that podium.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really happened. The whole thing
Also-
with the fingers in the air and the thing. That's like
Also-
identical to what happened
Yeah.
to the actual.
The Soviets, I know when you get your gold medals,
Yeah.
you're supposed to turn them in
Yeah.
to get your name engraved on them
Yep.
afterwards, and the Soviets never turned their medals in.
I don't think the Soviets even came to get theirs.
Yeah, to them,
Did the
that's like-
Soviets come to the medal ceremony?
You know,
That I
that's a
don't
good
know.
I
question.
don't think they did. I don't think they accepted them
They were so...
because the Soviets did not want second place.
We don't
No.
want your second place.
We don't
man.
want second
We
place.
don't want it. Listen.
We don't want second place. What happens to the coach? What happens to the coach?
He does.
Well, that's what happened. Then you know, like 4 or 5 years later, the bigger upset was Rocky Balboa going to Russia
That's
on
right.
Christmas Day and beating Ivan Drago.
I'll say, y'all!
I say bien, I say bien, yeah, c'est bien, yeah, c'est bien.
I fight for me! Creed, a little disappointed.
So I mean, this was the start of the ending the Cold War. Then Rocky Balboa single-handedly ended the Cold War.
You know, had Rocky, what was that, Rocky 4?
that was Rocky 4.
Had Rocky 4 happened before that hockey game, it would have changed everything.
Well, then it wouldn't have been a hockey game because then it would have been over. already.
Everybody would have been peaceful and just
You know,
getting along.
and you know, Rocky trained in the mountains in the snow, and he
Right.
grew a beard. He really went all out.
He went all
I
out.
mean,
He went all out with facial hair.
Drago took steroids and trained with these high tech machines. Rocky went to
In
basics.
heat?
In heat. Rocky really, you know, because he saw his best friend die, and you know, he You gotta revenge that.
Yeah, but then he came. He's training his son.
I didn't see the Creed 2, so don't tell me anything.
I haven't seen anything.
It was all right. Creed 2 was okay.
Is that like on demand yet? Is Creed 2 on
I don't
demand?
think
Not
so.
yet. It's like it's still in the theaters.
I enjoyed Creed. I thought
It's
Creed
not on
was-
demand because nobody wants to see it.
What do you mean? Everyone wants to see it.
No, I thought it was good.
The Rocky movies are
I
amazing.
just wish, I would like to see a little more of the whole Ivan Drago thing. I thought they, and the one scene where
I didn't see it. I didn't
Oh.
see the new one
He
yet. I
didn't
just
see
said
it.
I
He
didn't
just
see
said,
Creed
"Don't
2.
spoil it."
Oh,
for
I just want to see
Anthony.
the bar scene where they. Oh, sorry.
The bar scene.
I can't stand you. This is
Sorry.
what I'm never doing. I'm
Happy
leaving this.
holidays.
This is the last podcast I'm doing. Number 13.
Happy holidays.
I'm not going to be here next week. I'm done.
Come on, Anthony.
I'm done.
Come on.
This is it.
Come on.
I quit.
On that note,
Well, I guess since we're done.
Have Nick sit here and you can look at the camera.
Anthony is retiring, and it's time for us to wrap up. On
certainly is.
on that note, let's see. Wait a minute. On that note, I am John Truson,
Play some river dance.
Chris Roach.
Anthony DiDomenico.
Nick Tillelli.
and this has been
Not Another Puckin' Podcast.
Yep.
Comedians on Hockey.
Come see us 7:30 tonight, Governors.
That's right. And New Year's Eve, Anthony will be at the brokerage, and
I'll be at the
Chris Roach
brokerage.
will be at McGuire's with
Right.
me.
Bohemia.
Yep.
Brokers be better. Oh! Chris Roach's band sucks big. Oh my back. Oh, fucking hurt.
Oh man.
This is the